Hey guys, DesolatorMagic here, back again with Chapter 3 of the Ravnica Allegiance storyline. Now, if you're confused about where the entire rest of it is, it's on my second channel, Desolator Gaming. I'll just cut straight to the chase. I needed to get to 4,000 watch hours, and I did. So now I can monetize my second channel, which means I can actually give a crap about anything I upload there. And if a video suddenly gets 1 million views, which is pretty likely with what I'm planning, I won't, lose out on several $1,000s. So we're back to the original channel, where this series still gets basically no views. So anyway, head on over to my second channel to see Chapter 1 and 2 if you missed it. And now it's Simic's turn with The Principles of Unnatural Selection, written of course by the amazing Nikki Drayden. And 3 for 3, we've got a content warning about this being unsuitable for younger readers, but I'm going to, well, not censor it, but comically change it, as usual. So don't worry, that warning does not apply to this particular video. Let's jump into it. We've got our main character here who's some kind of school teacher under the sea, some kind of Little Mermaid situation going on, I believe. And the teacher is busy teaching the small class of students that everything's better down where it's wetter, under the sea. The class sizes year to year have gone from 22 to 14 to 8, and apparently the reason is, well, as they put it, adaptionists. Oh, those darn adaptionists and their anti-vaxxing, whatever, I don't know what they do. Oh wait, it explains those who use bioengineering and other upwelling principles that have floated down into the oceans through the Simic zonauts, which they actually have a pop-out that defines zonauts. How about you just don't use the term? If you have to define it, anyway, a zonaut is a delicious Z-shaped donut. Oh wait, I read the wrong definition. It's a huge sinkhole that leads all the way down to the Ravnican oceans, and each serves as a distinct Simic habitat, sort of an oversized, inverted skyscraper. Each zonat has a different culture, ecosystem, and racial distribution, as well as a speaker. So in other words, it's the PJs. That's the projects for all you suburb people. Hey, I can still appreciate the movie The Burbs, okay? I've lived in both. Well, this teacher wants to cling to the ways of their ancestors and train students to protect their waters with the same techniques that they've been using for millennia. So in other words, not bioengineering. Okay, I think we found out which faction is the anti-vaxxers. Well, some of the kids in the other classes have lab elongated fins so they can swim faster. They have enhanced vision, better camouflage. I know which side I'm on. So the class is supposed to determine how long a elder monk has been meditating because he or she hasn't moved in a long time. And they're supposed to use science and logic and biology and that kind of thing. They're supposed to, measure the banding on something about, I don't know, when a merfolk doesn't eat. I don't know, whatever. But the super shy recluse geek of the group is just like, 7 weeks. That's Kazira, and she figured it out because of the number of dead plankton that had settled on the monk's face mostly. Clever. And just then, Taro Zalek, the senior clutch tender, in other words, I don't know, childcare specialist, but for fish people, he shows up and he's got a new set of bioengineered crab arms with giant pincers. Ooh, how impressive. So he's bragging about how his giant group of 27 students is a bunch of bioengineered freak mutants, and he's sure that they'll get some kind of job placement when there's only 62 positions available. Well, our main character, Medj, was under the impression there were 80 spots open for the Protectorate, but no, the Guardian Project, whatever that is, sent over some bioengineered frog mutants. I'm telling you, those bioengineered frog mutants, they took our jobs. Gotta build a wall to keep the frogs out, except they can jump over it. Oh, and Medj says, well, this is a merfolk matter, not a Simic matter, which is a very clear distinction. Not all Simic are merfolk, not all merfolk are Simic aligned. Well, if Medj can't get one of her students to qualify, she is fired. I sure hope Medj is a female name. It just kind of sounds like it. Well, there's only one thing to do now, and that's take a field trip. So everybody on board the magic school bus. Well, they finally get out into the deep ocean where they could witness the problem up close and personal instead of just hearing about it, which she thinks might give them an edge. The crisis that they're hiring additional protectorate jobs for is the crisis. That's right, Simic bioengineers had created this ridiculous, I don't know, what do they call it on the card? Shark, octopus, fish, jellyfish, I don't know, vacuum cleaner / Tesla Model S / nuclear reactor, I don't know. And they've got claws and scales and spines and like a serpent tail, and it's messed up. So the biomancers created them, and then, oops, they were really smart and found a way to escape their enclosures, and then swam out into the ocean. Now they're killing all the benthids. So now they want to kill the Crasises. So they put out a now hiring sign, and here we are. So they see a Crasis attack one of the benthids and just take it out just about instantly because the benthids had millions of years of no natural predators. So she tells the kids, yeah, that's what we're up against. We can protect the creatures that live within our own territory, but out here, we haven't got the resources or time to protect them all. Stupid Simic ruining everything. So they were hiding up against the hull of a, sunken ship, and then all of a sudden they hear a voice from inside say, passage. Whatever that's supposed to mean, so they're like, oh, okay, that's too dangerous, let's just report it to the Protectorate and bail, but the kids are like, nah, we gotta do something. So Medj is like, yeah, we probably should. So she picks 2 students out of her bunch of just untalented rejects, and they decide to go in and investigate. They push the hatch door open, and it crumbles into splinters. So they go inside, and the ship's been there for about 80 years, so it's pretty wrecked and covered in barnacles, but one thing stands out, though, and it's a big gold-colored medallion about as big as one of the students' faces. So Miko grabs it, and he's like, ooh, this is going to be worth some money. And then they hear the word passage again, and the teacher says, okay, who's there? Show yourself. Just then, a human shape emerges. Now, Medj knows that humans, as they put it, either need genetic modifications or a clunky apparatus to breathe underwater and swim with the grace of a drunken seahorse. This one seems to move just fine, though, but something isn't right, and they determine that he must be some kind of ghost. So finally he says, passage home. So Kazira, the weird smart one, is like, okay, let's just give him some time to stop acting so weird and remember what it's like to be around people after a couple decades. So finally he asks, what manner of beast are ye? Like, before he says, I've never seen creatures like you, and then when they say merfolk, he's like, oh yeah, water people. So he introduces himself as Andric, and he's the most unfortunate sole survivor of the Heckless. Oh, hecking heck, that's the name of the ship, apparently. The ship was sunk by pirates a long time ago. Oh my god, they have pirates on Ravnica. Just kill me now. I've had enough pirates on Ixalan. So he goes on and on, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it sucks being dead. It's boring down here, but at least I could watch the sunrise through the water, and now I can't because it started sinking into the dirt, and now I'm bored. Somebody better call the Ghostbusters to bust him out of there. And not the unfunny, bumbling bimbo morons from the last movie. So the teacher's like, ooh, real world experience, and it'll make my students more confident and stuff because they all suck. They're all talentless and have massive personality defects. Cool. So she's all, okay, well, don't do anything stupid, and the sea is dangerous. Which he's already dead. Like, a lot of this story doesn't make sense. And then Miko, one of the dumber students, is like, oh, we get to keep this, and he raises up the medallion. He's like, fine, keep it. It's fake gold anyway. But then he says, okay, I'll agree to your terms if you could reunite me and my ship with the blue sky. Okay, they ain't getting that ship out of there. I'll call it right now. So Miko's like, oh, why don't you just swim to the surface? You know, for how dumb he is apparently in the story, that's a good point. And then he answers, this is the most because story thing I've ever seen. My conscience is too heavy, I fear. The remains of the crew are still aboard this ship, and I wouldn't feel fit making that journey without them. It's my sole wish that their families can see them to a proper burial. It's been 80 years, their families ain't around, alright? At least not direct family. Well, for some reason, empathy is super important to these merfolk, which, I mean, I hate them just from the actual gameplay. So to hear that they're not vicious, evil, awful, just the worst damn tribal ever since Slivers, shocking. So one of the students out of the 8 is like, nah, we shouldn't do this, too great of a risk. How are we gonna get the ship past the crisis? And she says, we observe, we conceal, and lots of counterspells and stupid blue control bullshit. Haven't I taught you that by this point? So they convince her, they're like, let's just use magic and illusions, you guys know the spells, alright, let's do it. So even though the ship is crumbling to pieces, it's been down there for 80 years and it's sunken into the dirt completely, they still somehow are able to empty the cargo hold of barrels to make the ship lighter, which in itself, if you know about anything at all, you know that that's ridiculous. So they go to the benthic that was attacked and killed before and steal its vocal sac. They patched up with Bastar, whatever that could possibly be, and then they spend 30 minutes blowing. I mean, even with gills, I find that hard to believe. I mean, they're just going to go full Spongebob and just light a campfire under the water, right? I mean, we've completely forgotten at this point that they're underwater and that they're merfolk, like, right? We're all on the same page here? Anyway, that starts to lift the entire ship. which seems extremely unlikely. In fact, I'm convinced that this entire chapter is just one giant Spongebob parody because it says Kazira and a couple other students conjure up the concealment spells, but then they store them within conch shells, aka the magic conch, so that they can use them in an instant on our passage to Zonut 5. Number 5, of course, one of the best Zonuts. They've got a really nice Denny's. They've got a new gas station that also has electric car charging. That's pretty neat. And also they have a Dunkin' Zonuts that's open 24 hours. So the students work together and all do what they were taught, and the teacher's so glad, even though they're really not really cut out for the job necessarily. You know, the protectorate positions that she's trying to get them into. Well, direct quote, "They've all claimed a spot in the winner's shell of my heart." So they get within view of the giant upside-down skyscraper, which actually by the picture appears to be a man-made construction. I thought it was like a natural cave system column thing going out to the ocean. And then it happens. Miko yells, "Crisis!" It's part shark, part crab, and strangely not a third part. That doesn't really fit with the crises I know. So the teacher's like, "Conceal, conceal," and they drop the spells. Everything around them, including the ship, fades into a rippling blue haze, and the crisis passes right over them. Since Miko's an idiot, he's about to reach up to touch it, but then she shoots him a stare as cold as the sea depths, and he doesn't. He ain't getting no protectorate job. So there's guard station there, and they see some frog people go up and pay the guards a little bit of gold as like a fee to get through. I guess it's kind of a Panama Canal situation or something. And the teacher's like, "Well, if we explain our predicament, I'm sure they'll grant us safe passage," even though they've never met these people before. But the ghost is like, "I don't like the look of this. We should find a different way up." But then they remind him that his wreck has already lost half of its hull planks. Oh, it's falling apart again. How convenient. Also, they're out of concealment spells, so they're in trouble. So they're just like, what's the big deal? I mean, who cares? They're just going to maybe look at the boat and ask you questions and let us through. And he says, "Absolutely not. We cannot." Suddenly, the one trunk that he told them they absolutely cannot throw overboard because it contains some kind of Orzhov magic tablets or something, it starts glowing orange and some magic surges from the cracks in the lid. Suddenly, Mr. Ghost's soft, tattered edges go hard as it absorbs all of the magic. We get a peek at something much more sinister, something that definitely poses a threat. The students stiffen their fins in response, ready for a fight. Miko figures it out, which is strange, and it says, "Who are you, really, and what's really in the trunk?" The ghost shudders and then completely sheds his humble visage. Suddenly, the tattered frock that was covering everything very suspiciously is gone, and he stands clad in layers upon layers of opulent robes and several necklaces that appear to be made of golden sand dollars. He's glowing in a hostile way. I'm not sure how you could glow hostilely, but okay. The water swirls around them like a riptide, and Miko gets a good grip on the trunk and won't let it go. Sounds like a good way to piss him off. When the worn lid finally gives out and the water is torn into a tornado, like a storm within the sea, Miko bangs his head on the debris and goes still, drifting off. I guess he really didn't want him to see what was inside of that trunk. The Meg swims off after him and gives up her grip on the boat, which is now pretty covered in turbulence and bubbles and debris and everything. It might not even still be in one piece, honestly. Well, the contents of the chest fly around. Definitely not sacred tomes of the Orzhov, like you said, but treasure of some kind. Old and beautiful, each piece bears the brand of the Simic Combine. I'm throwing out a theory. He's the pirates. He was not attacked by pirates. He's a powerful undead priest, and he just wants to get his stolen treasure from the Simic to the surface, without being inspected by the Simic. Stupid Orzhov, they ruin everything. Them and Rakdos should have been just wiped out by the other guilds. Seriously. Oh, and what do you know? You guys weren't missionaries, you're pirates. That's like the very next line. So Mr. Ghosty could have returned to the surface whenever he wanted, but he didn't want to leave his treasure behind because he might forget where they left it. That's one theory, but then Chessa, one of the other students, says, "Hey, wait a minute. Maybe he couldn't leave because he couldn't leave." She's holding that golden medallion. A vortex opens right next to her, trying to rip it from her grip. She holds tight, though, and starts squinting, trying to read it. It's some kind of contractual signet. It's bound to the boat, and so is he. Oh, Orzhov loved the contracts and all that law magic. All of a sudden, all the swirly water magic stops, and he says, "Put that down, fish." He said the F word. Well, they said before that the medallion was still tied with some suspiciously strong rope, considering that's the first thing that would dissolve underwater and get eaten by fish. But it was tied to the ship, so now Chessa and another student just rip it off and just basically rip the whole plank off the ship that was anchoring the medallion. And then she says, "I'd toss this overboard, but you don't deserve the honor of resting upon the ocean floor." Damn, girl, getting vicious. So she swims off towards the crisis, that's smart, and the ghost is tugged after her, tethered by old yet resilient magic. The teacher tries to swim after Chessa, but Mika just weakly says, "Let her go. She needs this." What wise words from such an unpersonable, reactive but brave dumbass. None of these characters hold their personality traits at all. So when Chessa gets up to the crisis, she teases it, looking like a delicious snack. And then when the beast opens his mouth, she ducks out of the way and chucks the gold medallion inside of his mouth. "Let's see how you like your new master," she says to the ghost as the beast's jaws snap and the medallion finds its way into the gullet. Ha ha, awesome. So now Mr. Ghosty Pirate Guy cannot swim away, and the crisis is like, "Ooh, what's this?" because he's the closest and Chessa's already swimming away at high speed. The Crisis' teeth gnash futilely through the apparition as he disappears inside the Crisis, dragged behind the medallion. Oh, and the whole ship fell apart too, by the way, they say. That's convenient timing. But guess what? The class gathers up all the Simic artifacts in their arms that were stolen. The artifacts were stolen, not the kids' arms. Everybody knows the Simic people always maintain the right to bear arms. And honestly, it's the Simic. They'd probably literally give them bare arms if they asked to. All right, I got the guy with crab arms. So they swim up to the guards and they're like, "Okay, here's everything that just happened." And she calls over her boss because duh. The elf mage, hold up a second. Elf mage breathing underwater, how? You know what? The elf mage swims over from her campfire where she's roasting pork ribs, turns off her microwave and toaster on the way over. Because you know what? At this point, why the hell not? And then the boss looks down and her eyes go wide as he carefully picks it up. I think I called her a she before. I don't know. Everybody in the story is female so far. Whatever. Mr. Elf Mage Guy, his mouth gropes for words before he finally says, "If I'm not mistaken, this is," and by the way, this is huge, guys, Momir Vig's key rune, stolen nearly a century ago. 80 years, give or take. Momir Vig, by the way, previous guild leader of the Simic for a long time. Also, key runes were kind of significant the last time we were on Ravnica, or maybe 2 times ago, I don't know. Actually, yeah, pretty sure that was 2 times ago, whatever. So then he's like, "Hey, there's a popular exhibit about this missing key rune here in the Zonot. Come, I shall bring you to the museum curators so you can tell your tale." Or let me just suggest plan B here. Put that sucker up on eBay. Oh, it says they step out of the water at the base of the Zonot, which is apparently filled with air. So how were they talking to them in what? You know what? Screw it. So there's all kinds of Simic inventions, and they're allowed to sit in this fancy wading pool and probably had snacks too. Because the museum people heard that this is huge. So they visit the section that's dedicated to the intellectual pursuits of Momir Vig, and the curator directs them to the crowning piece, the last cytoplast Vig had created before his downfall. I don't know what a cytoplast is, but I'm sure it's neat. They describe it as an amorphous blob that is waiting to connect with some poor soul to manipulate their genetics. So I guess it's I don't know. What's that bacteria they always use on Star Trek to change somebody's DNA? It sounds like that. Or maybe it's a virus. I don't remember. That would make more sense, honestly. So they very quickly built an entire display for it. That's pretty impressive. And they're all just ecstatic. So Kazira is staring at one of the other exhibits where they're showing off all the genetic mutations and stuff in this weird biogel. And the teacher says, "Hey, if you want to undergo genetic modification, I can tell your parents, that that's what you want, but you'd have to retrain for the protectorate job under Taro because apparently they're the utopian people who don't want genetic modifications." And Kazira, pardon me, says, "No, I don't want mutations. I mean, I've always seen the value of utopian living, but it's not sustainable, not with the crisis out there. Perhaps if I study up here in the Zonots, I could figure out how we could change the fight." Maybe they could give resplendent benthids stronger skin or the ability to camouflage. Then we could give them a chance to survive, and we could keep our utopian ways and balance them with the ways of the adaptionists. So she's all proud of her because, empathy, and she's totally going to get a protectorate position. Also, she's the niece of a high-ranking official. Then she mentally goes, I'm so proud of all my students, Chessa, Demas, Laszlo, Sagandaris, Fania, Zynek, and... oh crap, where's Miko? She spots him, his fingers inches away from touching the now unguarded cytoplast because even the guards went to go see the new exhibit. Wow, Miko he's one of those touchy people. I know at least 2 people like this in real life. They literally have to touch everything. I think they need therapy. Fireman's one of them. He literally has more of an obsession with touching anything that looks interesting than his dog Nala. Legit, he just picked something up in my shop and he's like, what's this? I'm like, those are very thin glass vials of toxic substance, and if you drop them, we all die. He's like, oh, okay, sets it down, touches the thing right next to it. So then she yells, Miko, stop this instant. And he withdraws his finger to turn around, but one of his fins clips the pedestal and the cytoplast tumbles off of its perch. Well, these fish people can't move so good in the open air here, so the teacher can't get out of the way in time, and boom, the cytoplast smacks her in the chest. So she grows tentacles out of her fins with eyes on them. So instead of explaining what happened when the Guardians show up and say, this mer woman has destroyed a priceless artifact, they just say, yeah, well, we just gave you another one, so we're even. Let us pass, the teacher says. And then she adds or else for no reason. Doesn't really fit her personality that's been established in this chapter so far, but none of the characters are consistent. Then again, if I just grew tentacles with eyes on them, I'd probably have a bit of an attitude too all of a sudden. And the Guardian asks, or else what? I can say that I'm not proud of what happens next. I blame it on the confusion of mutating so rapidly, of this too dry air making my thoughts dizzy. A fight ensues, and after a round of broken fins and broken egos, my class and I are tossed into the Zonot's brig. How and why does it have a brig if it's not even technically a ship? Oh, and then it says, perhaps it is a good thing knowing that our combine is not fragile enough to be taken down by a group of preteen merfolk and their newly tentacled teacher. That's like the person getting arrested. Well, at least the cops did their job. Wonderful police we've got here, guys. Top-notch work. Well, after hours in the brig, guess who shows up? Utopian speaker Zagana, a.k.a. the aunt of that one student. I forgot her name. Oh yeah, Kazira, considering she says, Kazira, my niece, I have spoken to your parents and they have expressed extreme displeasure with your actions here. They didn't do anything. It was an accident. It's like this storyline is just purposely going places for dramatic reason and zero logic. Nobody's acting realistically. Nobody's explaining anything. Nobody's acting like a reasonable, intelligent being. And it's all purposely just to piss me off. So apparently, even though she apologized, she says you and your friends are to return to merfolk territory immediately and are hereby banned from the Zonots. Now they can't go to the Dunkin' Zonots. And it's open 24 hours! That means that apparently no more education, which is weird because they made it sound like even the teacher was not from there and neither were the students. That's kind of weird. So the teacher's like, I ain't having that. If anybody is banned from the Zonots, let it be me, Miss Speaker, because I have put the children in danger, but it is their only desire to serve the Simic Combine in the best way they know how. Chessa here has overcome her fears and displayed an extreme act of courage. Miko has proven his observational skills. And Kazira has not only shown empathy, she's found her calling. She wants to study in the Zonots and take her knowledge back to the oceans where she can help strengthen us all. And so, of course, she asks, is this all true? Kazira nods, now standing tall, straight as a rockfish spine. So Zagana just turns to leave without another word. Several minutes later, they're being led out of the cell and then out of the Zonot back into the ocean. So fast forward to the day of the showing. Taro and his fancy new crab arms quiver as he sees her class, their confidence like an aura around them. And just then, they pull out their instruments and it's sweet. Well, I mean, it doesn't say necessarily that that's what happened, but this entire chapter is a Spongebob parody, clearly. So anyway, each of her students secures a place in the Protectorate, except two. Miko, because, well, he's Miko, as the story literally says. but he's come along further than any of my expectations, and I'll gladly have him repeat with me the next year. Really? The cereal toucher that turned you into an octopus freak? Really? I got you exiled from the Dunkin' Donuts? Anybody gets me kicked out of a Dunkin' Donuts and we're gonna have a problem. I don't need any help getting kicked out of one of those, okay? I can do that on my own. Also, Kazira doesn't claim a space. She doesn't appear for her showing at all. Gee, I wonder if Zagana or whoever it was is mad that they let her off the hook. Although, apparently I'm misunderstanding how this works slightly, because it says that she just spots her in the audience wearing Biomancer's robes. She got a job in one of the Zonuts, which is odd because they just said they're preteens. I don't think you give them dangerous chemistry jobs. Well, especially Miko, by the way. That's illegal child labor. I'm calling up Zorius. They probably have a department for this. Although then again, they might be busy because the Gruul just let kids like scavenge on the streets for food and blow stuff up. So when Taro swims past, she says, "Thanks for giving me the kick in the fin I needed." Nearly half of his clutch had placed. Not as good as he'd expected, but the competition overall was the best that she'd seen in years. That's because they're using performance-enhancing genetic mods. No need to mock me, he grumbles, eyeing my tentacles with palpable jealousy. My bro, get some rocket launchers for those crab arms. That would be the most baller stuff ever. So anyway, the eyeball tentacles are wonderful adaptations. I guess she is against, that kind of thing, but now she can see everything all around her. There's no way she'll let a student escape now. That is just the silver lining right there. And then typical Wizards of the Coast SJW, let's all get along, nobody has any stance on anything, let's all meet in the middle neutral BS, which is funny because they're all extremist leftist feminists. I'm not mocking you, I've avoided adaptationist ideas, that's hard to say. You've cast off the utopian ones. We've both embraced the extremes when we should have taken the time to learn from one another and to find a place in the middle. Or you can stick to your beliefs and not compromise them for civility. So he even says, hey, maybe next year we can team up. And they're like, yeah, next year. That sounds great. I ain't gonna be a next year. Bolus is gonna blow your whole place straight back to hell. I legitimately hope the merfolk go extinct. By the time World War Bolus is done, Ravnica is gonna make it look like shards of Alara had their crap together by comparison. And they were shards of Alara. Alara was physically not in one piece. I think when we return to Ravnica, probably next year, it'll just be Ravnica, the post-apocalyptic hellscape. Seriously though, who else is up for a post-apocalyptic set? That would be so cool. I know that was super in 5 years ago with zombie stuff and but the whole prepper movement's coming back around, so I mean, they could jump on that train. I'm just saying, it would be really cool. And it wouldn't even have to be Mad Max, ooh, technology, guns, ooh. It could be like low tech, and maybe it was a mana thing where mana is really hard to come by. Ooh, there could be the mana cataclysm, and now everything's post-apocalyptic and something ruined their whole society. See, Wizards should have hired me to write this crap. Anyway, I believe we got 2 more chapters to go, so I'm pretty excited. Hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss the ones in the future. And like I said, to see all of the Guilds of Ravnica ones and the couple that were already released for Ravnica Allegiance, I'm pretty sure all of them are on my second channel, Desolator Gaming. I'd say link in the description, but we all know I'm going to forget to put it there. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the actual real full story. It's pretty damn good, written by Nikki Drayden, totally awesome author. It's over on magic.wizards.com/archive/magic-story/principles-unnatural-/2019-02-06. Oh, and it's HTTPS, by the way. Link in the description, just kidding. If you can't find the official story by now, what the hell? I know their website's a complete disaster, but just go to magic.wizards.com and click on story. Something like that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.